an undeniably canon Five Nights at Freddy's timeline. We're gonna be watching this whole timeline. And, of course, this is made by Ooftroop. Ooftroop is the wonderful person who made this. And, of course, before watching our reaction to it, make sure to go watch their video first, and then come back to ours and watch it properly. Alright, now, let's get into it. The undeniable canon timeline. I wonder what the actual truth of it all is.
Wow, we're discovering so many truths this week.
We are, honestly. Maybe too much.
Your
But
mom,
hey,
my
that's
mom.
just a theory. A game theory.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
Hey you. You look like you're interested in some FNAF lore.
Yeah.
Sick
I
of
am.
all the speculation? Do you want something that's undeniably canon?
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, wait, what?
Well,
What's wrong
that's
with
too
this
bad.
person?
I'm telling you anyway.
Yay!
Wait. I know we said we were gonna not pause as much, but is that a neon cat version of my dad?
Where do you think they got Neon Cat from? It had to start somewhere.
Why is there a neon cat version of my father?
Someone's gotta do it, Freddy. Someone's gotta do it.
Something's gotta give. Oh my god.
That's oh boy. Well, who's
The
that
year
guy?
was 1983.
I have no idea.
January, to be exact. Local nobodies Henry Emily and William Afton were walking down the streets of Hurricane,
Purple
Utah,
guy.
when suddenly they noticed that not once in their life have they ever caught a glimpse of a yellow grizzly bear. It was then their fates were sealed, and they knew that they must fulfill their destiny.
Oh.
Henry and William were something of robotics enthusiasts, so they
Wretched
finally
little
used their untapped potential to create the most realistic animatronic
What is
bear
wrong with his
imaginable.
neck, actually?
On their first attempt,
I don't know. It's very. Oh wait, he's got a neck brace, and then
robotics
his neck goes
enthusiasts,
back
so
to
they finally
being.
used their
broken.
untapped potential to create the most
Like, even in this photo.
It's like crinkly fries.
Oh.
realistic animatronic bear imaginable. On their first attempt, they made a decrepit, muddy yellow bear with giant teeth
Ah!
and claws.
God.
This wasn't realistic. William, however,
Daddy.
remembered that in the trunk of his car rested a cluster of discs that could emit audio frequencies that would fool people into seeing real bears.
What?
They slapped those
Ooh,
bad boys on
illusion
this
discs.
animatronic, and suddenly it took the form of a beautiful golden grizzly, who they then named Ferdinand von Bernard.
Yin Bear.
Not only did he look the part,
Wait. What did they call my dad?
They then named Ferdinand von Bernard. Not only did
Ferdinand
he look the part
von
and have a
Bernard.
voice like honey
Is
butter,
that your
but the
dad's
mind-altering
real name?
audio accidentally gave him
I
sentience
don't
and
know.
cosmic power
What?
beyond our human understanding. This
Okay,
was
maybe
Thanks,
it-
your dad.
what the partners.
I was about to say, have they been watching our channel? Have they been watching our...
Your dad's name is Ferdinand. Reginald. Wow. Now we've known.
Shenanigans
Now
were
we
not
know.
swayed. That is, until the entire town evacuated at the sight of this golden beast. Turns
Oh,
out,
Scott,
people are scared
see?
of loose bears. Who would have thunk it? Of course, this fear wasn't for nothing. Ferdinand was caught dining on a local restaurant owner, and he fled from the crime scene before law enforcement could get to him.
Your daddy.
William and Henry
Wow.
realized they had been a slight bit overzealous with their first creation. Good thing is, literally nobody knew or cared who they were, so they got away with this scot-free. Later that month,
Hey, I
they
get it,
designed
Scott.
an animatronic simply based on
Scot-free.
Ferdinand's likeness. This character was quite a downgrade, being both simpler and stupider. This didn't matter to the duo, though, as they loved their creation. And with that, Fredbear was born. At first, they
Fredbear.
had nowhere to actually put him, so they opted for the dump. He was truly a diamond in the rough. Amazingly, this attempt at entertainment was amusing enough
he's
to
a
the
bear.
citizens of Hurricane that they gave William and Henry enough money to afford a recently vacated
Papa
diner space.
Thurgood's Family
Fredbear
Diner.
was going to be a star. Unfortunately,
Oh, the
animatronic was
restaurant owner that got eaten.
Wow. There's a lot of murder early on.
There really is.
extremely poorly designed, and their attempts at granting him artificial intelligence quickly turned sour. On February 31st, 1983, his first performance on stage in front of children prompted him to spontaneously
Yeah.
combust from a
Uh-huh.
nervous breakdown. William
What?
and Henry, heartbroken
No!
at this tragic
Where's
event,
the
walked out
bite?
to ensure this would never happen again. This also prompted William to threaten the
No!
United States government, and they met his demands to strike February 31st from the calendar forever.
Wait, what?
After that, they set
So
their
that's
sights
the
on
real
making something
reason.
with no flaws. But then they made springlock suits. In an attempt to both ease the animatronics' nerves
that's a
and
nice
not allow
image.
them their legally required breaks, Henry and William created mechanisms that could lock the endoskeleton parts to the inner edges of the suit for a person to climb inside and cover for the character. For extra safety precautions,
Aw.
they created a partner for the new Fredbear 2.0 to ease his nerves.
Spring Bonnie!
For some reason, the best name they
Spring
came up with for
Bonnie.
Fredbear's partner was Spring Bonnie. William was insistent on this name, and Henry felt too threatened to argue against it.
I
Where the
would feel
safety
threatened too.
precautions ended, however,
Oh.
was the fact that the spring locks holding the
Oh.
endoskeleton pieces away from a person's vital organs were made out of paper clips, and the lightest sneeze could set them off. Truly brilliant
water.
inventors, those two. The dynamic duo
They
had now
were.
created a dynamic duo. William was the only one who had the nerve to actually test the springlock suit, and it turned out he enjoyed dancing around as a yellow rabbit a little too
They
much.
got the
Henry
Nobel
was
Peace
unbothered by
Prize.
this though, as William was still perfectly capable of handling their finances in character.
Wow.
A few months
Oh,
ago,
doing his
Fredbear's
taxes?
Family Diner was an absolute success. Not only were Fredbear and Spring Bonnie beloved by the now enlightened Mormon
Minecraft
population
villager?
of Utah, William even
Huh.
managed to lock in a deal with a low-budget animation studio in order to make a cartoon called Fredbear and Friends. The one downside, though, was the studio needed more characters and they refused any more yellow
Wait.
ones. Out of obligation, Leopold
There was a
Theodore
picture
Mirabelle-
on the board.
Chad Bear!
Chad Bear!
Foxy Papa, future project, let's sell out from the Chica Bear.
Wow. This is truly undeniably canon.
It feels like it.
and they refused any more yellow ones. Out of obligation, Leopold, Theodore, Mirabella, and Foxy were created.
Leopold.
No, Mirabella's not yellow, she's Xanthophyll. You're just seeing things.
Oh,
Surely these blights to everything William and Henry
don't
stood
know.
for would never see the light of day in any other context. William and Henry were at their peak, and William finally regained custody of his children. However, one of his sons,
Aww.
whose name has been stricken from the record, waltzed into the back
That's
room
right,
of
we never
Fredbear's and
really
saw
learn his
Fredbear
name,
smoking
do
a
we?
cigar. Fredbear's blatant nonchalance about his respiratory health was truly traumatizing for the child. In a panic, the child started to run out the door but accidentally tripped over the foot of Spring Bonnie. Unbeknownst to him, the animatronic was being worn by Harold the janitor, and this collision was enough
Oh.
to snap open the flimsy
It was
spring
the
locks
trip
and
of
impale Harold
83!
every which way. Harold's soul, heartbroken by his untimely demise and his boss's backup fursuit, transformed into
His
pure
backup
agony and he became a shadow
fursuit.
creature. He gave himself a really cool name, but unfortunately he never learned how to spell, so it came out like this. Shockingly okay with witnessing this occur, the child went home and invited his older brother, Michael, to play a game of Uno with him. However, there was foul
That's a funny
play.
photo.
This child was actually just a terrible human being and slid extra
Oh my
cards into the
gosh.
deck, causing Michael to draw 8 turns in a row. Enraged, Michael threw on a Foxy mask and started screeching at the child. The child, annoyed by his behavior, decided to humor Mike until he got bored of doing this and pretended to sob 24/7. Maybe, just maybe, this would guilt trip him. However, Michael was far more resilient
my
than the
gosh,
child
this is
anticipated, and this
intense.
behavior kept going for a whole week. The child, craving literally anything else to do with his time, walked into Fredbear's again in an attempt to face his fears before getting cornered by Trevor the cashier wearing a Fredbear suit. The child saw the reasoning for this, as Trevor was holding a gnat for a mediocre
Dang it,
dentist's
Trevor.
office in his hand, and so the child deliberately ran into Trevor to set off the spring locks.
again?
Oh my
Trevor, scared,
gosh!
a bit relieved by the matter in all honesty, turned into a more chill shadow creature that just kind of walked around convincing people to join his conga line. The child returned
my
home
goodness.
completely okay with the fact he just killed a man, and told his Fredbear plushie everything he did.
Oh my.
This is such a
Next day,
twist!
Michael and his Uno buddy
How
charged into the child's
twisted
room
is-
to take him to
how
Fredbear's
twisted
for
is this
his birthday.
kid
The child
version?
was still committing to the crying act, but this was a bad idea as it just made them come up with the idea of shoving him in Fredbear's mouth. So,
Oh.
that's exactly what they did. They mockingly told the child to give Fredbear a big kiss, which the animatronic took immediate notice of. This was a very
Oh.
dangerous situation for his career, so without thinking, Fredbear clamped down his jaw on the child's skull.
Oh.
This terrified Michael and his friends for about 5 seconds, until the child hopped out of it unscathed. Turns
What?
out,
What?
William and Henry gave the animatronics rubber teeth. Great safety feature. The child was livid and threatened to do the job again. Mike didn't really
Yo!
know what this meant.
This
but
is
it
like a
sounded
parallel
scary enough for his
universe.
buddy Jeremy Fitzgerald II to knock the
Oh
child
God!
underneath the chair.
Oh!
This only
Buddy!
distressed Michael more, so he rushed the child to the hospital where he was diagnosed with a mild concussion. When the child
Oh
awoke,
my-
he looked at Michael and told him that he never existed. When Michael asked what that was supposed to mean, the child fused with him and turned a little bit paler. This was just
Excuse
a very
me?
bad day for Michael. When he went to tell William about it, William had no clue what he meant by little brother. He told Mike to stop making up stories, trash that disrespectful mask, and take
What?
up engineering. This sounded good enough for him, so
The
that's
little
what he
brother
did.
was never
But
real.
turns out, the employees at Fredbear's called the police because Harold and Trevor's bodies were just laying on the floor, and nobody cared to do anything about it until right then. So the restaurant
my
was shut
gosh.
down, and the news media blamed it
Was
on
it
the
like
light
a
of
mo-
83
like
in order to
a
abruptly
split
end Fredbear's
personality?
career. They were just
Maybe.
jealous. William and Henry
The
were
bite
back
of
to
this
square one.
friend.
They're
Because
arresting
of
my
the
dad.
controversy and investigations, they laid low for a couple of years.
You'll never
In
take me!
1985, they finally opened a new location. With the amount of money they had earned from Fredbear's, they were luckily capable of buying out a new
Who's like the
restaurant
real
space
bad
with
guy
ease.
now?
Fortunately,
I
Fredbear was
don't
publicly
legitimately
executed 2
know.
years prior. So, William and Henry did the unthinkable. They made animatronics of the cartoon characters they had made out of reluctant necessity. Leopold was their immediate decision for the new mascot, as he was actually a
Right.
bear. He wasn't golden, but he would do. But that name didn't exactly resonate with the public, so after 5 seconds of brainstorming, they renamed him Freddy Fazbear. The initial plan was for him to be partnered with Spring Bonnie, but William refused to
you were
work
a
with any type
5-second
of grizzly that wasn't
rename.
golden. So, Henry opted to rebrand Theodore to simply Bonnie, and that worked well enough. However, making these two
wow.
characters so derivative of their superior counterparts worried Henry and William, as the public could possibly see through their ruse. So, they added another character to the band to distract people, Mirabella. Given the fact that she didn't
Mirabella!
have overtly feminine characteristics, though, Henry and William renamed her Chica to make sure any Spanish speakers knew she was a girl. It was one less cartoon character they could
Always
use,
doing
being Foxy the
Duolingo.
Pirate. This was a gimmick that the Fredbear and Friends show added to drive up ratings. Henry was fine with the concept, but William hated it. For the time being, the
Aw.
partners settled on shoving him in the corner of the building, far away from the 3 they actually tolerated. After
Oh my
opening
God.
the location, however, the
My
2 quickly
goodness.
realized that children didn't actually care about the 3 stage performers. Something about theming being more interesting. As more and more children flocked around Foxy's Pirate Cove, William immediately ran up and kicked the poor animatronic
Oh!
in the kneecaps. This put
His
him out of order for the time
kneecaps!
being, and William tore him up after closing. to ensure
Oh
it was
my
hidden.
god!
Somehow this didn't scare
Wait,
anyone away.
is this
and
why
everyone
Foxy
just
doesn't
immediately
remember
piled
what
back over
happened
to
to
watch
himself?
Freddy sing about bullfighting. Henry and William were truly living the life. They lost their beloved
Miss
golden
you.
animals, sure, but they were still happy. That is, until one fateful day. Hey, can I borrow $5? Yeah, sure. Well, not actually this
Oh.
specific day. It was 2 days after this that things fell to pieces.
Oh.
William, after a long day of work, was extremely hungry. You may be wondering why he didn't just eat dinner at Freddy's, but truth be told, he hated the pizza there. They blew all their budget on good tablecloths. So, instead, he opted to drive down to a local rundown Carl's Jr. on that fateful, rainy Tuesday night. Hello, I'd like an original Angus burger and a large Coca-Cola.
That'll be $5, please.
This was the moment
Oh, no.
that William Afton snapped. Where are my $5? In a fit of
He had a
rage,
20.
William sped 1 mile over the speed limit and pulled up at Freddy's to enact revenge on Henry.
What?
However, by pure chance, Henry's daughter Charlie was locked out of the building. William, attempting to help her back in, looked at her in the eyes trying to explain his plight. However, with the rage in his heart
What?
at that very moment, his mere stare was a death sentence. Charlie flopped over immediately.
Oh!
William, panicking over
Oh
this
my
murder, threw her
gosh.
in the alley next to the restaurant and drove off before anyone could see what had happened. After this, the restaurant security
kind of-
puppet, designed to keep track of the children assigned to it, walked out of the building to find Charlie. When it got to her body, her soul grew an attachment to the character, and she stuck around in hopes a new body would be
Okay.
made so she could fuse with it. You'd expect for this to be the end, but the sudden realization of his true power gave William an idea. With his instantaneous death stare, he could quickly and quietly send a horrible message to Henry. He circled back around to Freddy's and made a beeline toward the safe room that contained the retired Springlock
Immediate
suits.
death stare.
He quickly equipped his Spring Bonnie suit and darted around the restaurant telling kids that their dead dogs were alive in the safe room
Oh.
with Man Jenkins.
Oh
None
my
of them actually
gosh.
had dogs, but they all assumed that they'd managed to get a free one anyway. Of course, they realized very quickly that they were conned. William waltzed into the safe room with 5 total
my
children
go- oh
inside.
my
but
gosh,
before
how
he
many
could do
are-
anything, the child named Cassidy kicked him in the shin so
Oh.
hard it knocked the pink out of him. Luckily, he duct taped the spring locks to the edges of his suit so they couldn't go off. But he was still made livid by this attempt on his life, so he stared down each one and took them out. William wondered if perhaps he had gone overboard with his evil deeds, but figured that 5 children for $5
Can I have
was
an
a
evil
reasonable
death stare?
trade-off. As a
$5?
disclaimer to all
5
of you at
children for
home,
$5?
murder is bad. Meanwhile, a drunk man named Dave Miller had just been turned away from juniors and
Oh,
drove
no,
home.
it's
He was a
bad.
terrible father and insisted on invading his son's privacy for the heinous act of the boy, locking his door. The boy, whose name was Andrew, broke his window and left the house. Turns out, Trevor the cashier, at this point dubbing himself Shadow Freddy, convinced Andrew to participate in his conga line to Freddy's.
Conga line to
Unfortunately,
Freddy.
Shadow Freddy's favorite spot to wrap up his conga lines was the safe room, and the two just so happened to come in as William finished stuffing 4 of the children into the animatronic suits.
God.
William, surprised by a sudden
Purple-handed.
extra child, accidentally gave him the death stare, and now he was left with an extra body to stuff. And to make things more inconvenient, there weren't any
my
more
goodness.
characters to pick from. This, however, is when he realized that he could just stuff both Cassidy and Andrew into the Fredbear suit. William knew nobody
Genius.
actually wore the thing, so he was certain it would go completely unnoticed. After this, he left the building like nothing happened and drove home to sleep in his safe and comfy spring Bonnie pajama suit. It was getting to be an obsession.
Glitch trap!
After this point,
Wait, that's
Henry was
glitch
very
trap, not-
obviously devastated.
Yeah, I said
However,
it
he
wrong.
had no idea who actually did it. The cameras were broken, and the only accusations were that someone did it while in a mascot costume. Police
That's a lot of
promptly
people.
arrested a man from a completely unrelated pizzeria. Fortunately, Freddy's didn't get shut down.
Is
for
that
this,
Willie?
and Henry attempted to keep things going for a
Maybe
while.
not. I don't
William
know.
had sent him a letter saying he was off on vacation for the time being, so Henry was left to handle finances on his lonesome. But
Look, a $5 bill.
people rapidly started losing interest at Freddy's. The animatronics smelled horrible, and everyone finally noticed just how bad the pizza tasted. So by year's end, the
Hey.
restaurant shut down. Henry
That's-
decided to take
we
a
had
break
to
from it
increase
all,
the
and when
pizza
William
quality.
returned from vacation, he realized he could seize this opportunity and make a pizzeria with complete creative control. His daughter, Elizabeth, served as the perfect muse, and he proceeded to make an animatronic that looked nothing like her. He named it Fungus Baby. Don't ask why, it's not elaborated on. However,
That's
after
so
telling
true,
Elizabeth
like,
all
why?
about this
Yeah.
animatronic, he suddenly got the idea to use Baby for a different purpose than simple entertainment. William had recently noticed the animatronics from the closed Freddy's location acting strange, and upon further investigation, he discovered a substance that he called Remnant. His new idea entailed having Baby and a new set of animatronics
Right.
themed after her work together in order to collect more Remnant from children.
So far, we're, like,
he made Funtime Freddy and Bon Bon for easy marketing
right
appeal.
track.
Then he finally remade Foxy in his own vision,
You're
stripping
famous!
all of that filthy pirate gimmick from him and making him a lovely coat of white and pink. Funtime Foxy was superior in every way, and his lack of originality meant that nobody would prefer her over the characters William actually wanted people to like. Finally, William made a character named Ballora. This one wasn't made for murder purposes so much as it was made out of contempt. For who? His ex-wife, Eleanor Schmidt. He craved to make an animatronic that was better at ballet than her.
Eleanor!
She was an accountant, so this was easy. However, upon coming to William's house to pick up Elizabeth for a week,
He's got some
Eleanor saw what he
curves.
was building. Angered by the fact that this character was better at ballet than her, a woman who never once thought about it until right then, she fused with Ballora in a fit of rage, and now William was stuck with a robot wife that danced around his workshop every day. But no
Sounds like
matter.
a
William
dream.
secured a building to open this brand new
Darn
sister
my
location,
robot
Freddy's,
wife!
in the Pizza World, and progress was going smoothly. He had some test runs of the pizzeria and let some groups of people come there early for
Why does Circus Baby look like a buff, like, bodybuilder?
In this version, she does look like she's like lifting weights, and she's like looking at the cannons like, "Yo, bro, do you lift weights? You lift?"
But then your whole career.
Oh,
birthday parties. But this plan quickly turned sour as Elizabeth joined a party and ignored his specific demands not to see Baby. To William's surprise, children don't listen to you if you say not to play with something they
Yeah,
want. As
yeah,
a
I
result,
learned that.
Baby's murder equipment activated as soon as Elizabeth was alone with her. William
She got
instantly
the
shut down
scoop.
development on the restaurant.
Yo.
He was very distraught over this, which maybe
He
he
gets the
should have
new kid, but
considered
not
before
me.
trying to murder more children.
yes.
Despite the local
not
population being completely confused by this sudden turn of events, William blamed it on gas leaks and never spoke of it and instead went back to Henry for them to start work on a new Freddy's location.
I believe
For a
him.
while, they planned on just fixing up the old animatronics from the previous location and scrubbing them down to fix the odor problem. However, William caught sight of Foxy and formed a new
Hey,
idea in his head out
Foxy.
of pure hatred. He told
He
Henry
really
his idea
hates
for the new
Foxy.
design philosophy of the animatronics
What
he
the
had
fuck's
in
he do
mind.
to
He
him?
introduced a newfangled plastic finish, flashy makeup, and to top it all off, William unleashed his newfound obsession with prefixes and dubbed them toy animatronics. In order to further justify this decision,
Oh,
he also
no.
proposed bringing back
No, I just realized
What?
what joke are they gonna make about Toy Chica in this?
Oh boy! Yeah, it's not your toy, Chica, so it's okay.
God.
security puppet character as just a normal marionette, and finally created the hero of this universe, Balloon Boy. Getting
No!
William went straight to explaining to Henry why Foxy needed to be white and pink. And with that, the new face of Freddy's was underway. The location opened in 1987 with a lot of good press, and people were flocking to it. Why did they put so much
that's a
trust
lot of
in this new
people.
location? Simple. Henry and William advertised that there would no longer be terrible pizza. This is because they got rid of the kitchen. This restaurant had no food.
Huh?
You'd think this would be a problem, but kids really like to go there for the characters alone. And by characters, I mean character. As even despite
Pack-and-pow.
William's every last effort of
Oh,
making
look,
Foxy
candy!
relevant, the kids now flocked to Toy Foxy's
Candy
Kids
cat.
Cove to tear him apart and put her back together. They thought they could make him look better, but without technical experience, she looked less like a pirate and more like a metal tumbleweed. William had now found a new rage spurred by Foxy's mere existence, and so he enacted a second missing children's incident to cripple the restaurant's success. This time, however,
more
Henry had been
lost
paying
dogs.
attention. He saw the camera recordings of Spring Bonnie luring children to the safe room and realized that William was behind this the entire time. He immediately
You
fired
just
William and told him to
realized.
never show his
Yeah.
face again. William realized that this was a big problem. Henry may have let him off easy by not calling the authorities, but if anyone else checked anything, he'd be caught for sure. So, after ruffling through old newspapers about his murders to see if he liked any of the parents' names, he stole the name Dave Miller and applied for a job as a night guard at the location. Using this position, he tampered with the facial recognition scanners they implemented in the animatronics and wiped the camera recordings clean. On top of this, he beat up all of the old animatronics just to put them in their place after seeing Freddy walk around. He even tore off Bonnie's face for not being deserving of the mantle he once bore. Bonnie,
Oh,
possessed by
dang.
little Jeremy Fitzgerald, was merely a prophecy of more face
face
trauma
off.
to come for that bloodline. After getting done with that, William could have sworn he saw the puppet floating around whispering to everything it could see. This made him wonder if this was actually Charlie, but he didn't care enough to check, so he left it alone. The new set of children, though? William hadn't bothered actually stuffing them anywhere, so the puppet guided them to select new vessels of their own. Instead of individual characters like it was expecting, though, all of them voluntarily possessed Balloon Boy just because it was mildly amusing. William,
Oh,
still
what?
wanting his
Balloon
Dave,
Boy.
tried to maintain a job as a day shift
He
guard
took all
after
their
this,
life
but was quickly
batteries.
fired for having bad vibes. Also, he kept going into the parts and service room to kick the old Foxy animatronic in the shins. Now that the night guard position was open, one of Michael Afton's old Uno buddies applied for the job. Jeremy Fitzgerald II. He was actually pretty decent at it, but it got extremely stressful because Balloon Boy staged a coup against him with the other animatronics. So, once the week was over, he transferred over to the day shift position. Balloon Boy wasn't going to let Jeremy get away free though, and proceeded to publicly attack him and bite out his frontal lobe.
Oh god.
That face trauma prophecy came true quickly. But hey, don't worry, it grew back
Yikes.
within a month. But this incident,
Oh,
dubbed
it's
the Bite
okay.
of 87, was enough to finally get the establishment closed.
Ah,
On the night
so
after
he's
this
going with
attack,
the
they needed a
87
guard
bite.
to make sure Balloon Boy didn't escape. Instead of behaving though, local menace Fred Smith tampered with all the
Why is
animatronics and
Balloon
made them
Boy-
extremely aggressive just because he thought it'd be funny. Company higher-ups didn't appreciate this and quickly took care of the problem. Thus,
Oh, geez.
1987 ended with another location shut down abruptly.
Look
Henry
at the
scrapped
pretty
all
flowers.
the toy animatronics after this, except for Toy Freddy and the puppet. Turns out Toy Freddy was already retiring, as he really wanted to become a gamer. His
Oh.
endeavors were
Hey!
so he led a happy
Now
life.
we know the
puppet,
truth.
meanwhile, just vanished. Henry, spooked by the idea of a sock monkey with a clown mask coming back to haunt him, started making blueprints for a counterattack if that day ever came. Now, Henry had his
Right,
sights set on
left.
repairing and reusing the old animatronics for one last attempt at the pizzeria business without William in his way. However, this plan was easier said than done. Henry, with all of his financial incompetence, had next to no funds to enact
No
this
free
idea.
money!
So, he briefly attempted
didn't
a
know
public
you could
fund
get
to
free
try and
money.
get money. After a day of trying, he gave up with exactly $0 earned. Henry was broke,
80%
sure,
less
but he
better.
had some powerful resolve. So, he decided to steal back the building he and William used in 1985 to recycle for his new pizzeria. Despite this being very much illegal, nobody actually wanted to use the building given its history, so the city decided not to bother Henry when he claimed it back as his.
You know,
Being
that's a pretty
one-man
smart
show,
idea.
Henry had to take his sweet time renovating the place. But after about a year, he managed to open it back up with somewhat new animatronics. And, to his surprise,
look the same.
he was actually moderately successful. Due to a dwindling bear population in Utah, there was
Oh.
growing demand to see one in person, and the populace
What?
reluctantly decided that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was their best shot at doing so. Unfortunately, the working conditions were very much terrible. The most loyal employee of Fazbear Entertainment, only known by his co-workers as Phone Guy, was assassinated by the animatronics during his final week of working the night shift due to
Poor
looking
Phone Guy, he was
suspiciously
just
purple.
like-
The good thing is, he had recorded a helpful guide on how to not get assassinated right before getting assassinated.
Yeah,
Henry was
that's
not ready to
ironic,
let
isn't
the
it?
Oh my
tragedy of his
gosh, I
negligence
just
ruin
realized
things
that.
for him, though.
Yeah, he had a guide how to survive the nights before failing the final night.
Yeah, what? How do you do that? Unless he's a time traveler.
Maybe.
So he covered up Phone Guy's death, and business went as usual after.
Just made him an
William,
actual
still being
phone.
unemployed and bored, decided now was a good time to take revenge
Should
on
go
Henry.
wireless.
Again. He realized that he still had an entire stockpile of animatronics he never got to use. With the power of legal loopholes,
blob?
he managed to kickstart Circus
Freddy
Baby's entertainment
Fazbear.
and rentals. For suspiciously low prices, the average family could have a giant chrome animatronic shipped to their doorstep to throw parties for their children. What could go wrong?
Oh.
Well, Baby's eyes
nothing.
were green. For a moment, William thought he just misremembered her eye color, but then she started talking to him about very personal matters, and he realized Elizabeth had possessed her. Instead of doing anything immediate to solve this problem, he locked her in the rental facility and wrote a note on the fridge to take care of it later. After a few more years, Michael Afton finally graduated engineering school.
Jeez.
William was delighted by his son's return, as he was conveniently useful for his newest plot against Henry. However, he wanted Michael to be fully
My
prepared for
boy!
what was to come. So, William locked Mike into a crude replica of their house that vaguely resembled the layout of Freddy's. In this fake house, William had prepared makeshift animatronics with dangerously high safety hazards to attack Michael, so he could learn how to defend himself against the real deal.
Oh,
After
it
roughly a
sounds like
week of
Spring
watching
Body
Mike
with
handle
his
the
kids.
process,
Yeah,
William noticed
you're not
something
wrong.
Something broke into the fake house. Upon further investigation, he discovered some discarded audio discs lying on the ground. It was Ferdinand von Bernard.
The
Having
original.
wandered
Your
the wilds
dad!
of Utah for exactly a decade, he returned to Hurricane to wreak havoc on his creators. So,
Wow.
he targeted William's favorite, only son, using his unaltered form. But Mike was resilient, and he managed to avoid Ferdinand long enough that he got bored, reapplied his audio discs, and finally wandered away. Given the unplanned attack on Michael, William ended the
That's how you
testing
do it.
process and gaslit Mike into believing it was all just a nightmare before changing the subject to getting a job. To ensure that Henry wouldn't
Yo,
tell
that's,
Michael what he knows
you
about
know,
his father,
kind
William
of
told Mike that he should apply using his mother's
legit.
maiden name rather than Afton. That way he doesn't draw attention to himself for being related to everyone's favorite former manager, of course. So,
Yeah.
Mike Schmidt worked for a whole week at this place. The animatronics tried to assassinate him due to his good looks, or so he assumed. After working an extra night and being applauded by Henry, he was then instructed by William to sabotage the animatronics using
Dumb
his new
robot.
engineering
Weak
skills.
points.
Why do I need to disable their AI? It builds character.
It
And
builds
Henry still owes me
character.
$5. Michael wasn't buying this.
Just
so
pay
he
him back
decided
his
to do the
$5 and his
exact
all
opposite.
ends,
Crank
apparently.
them all up to the maximum
That's
setting to
all
challenge
because
himself
of
for the end of his week.
$5.
But due to the animatronic scent rubbing off on him, Henry fired him for body odor and inadvertently caused a personal grudge. Before leaving, Mike snuck into the back and disabled all of the animatronic systems to spite Henry. Now that the animatronics didn't work, everyone stopped caring about Freddy's again. Henry's profits
Oh my
plummeted, and he
goodness.
was ultimately forced to shut the place down by the end of 1993.
No,
Again?
stop.
Hearing
Really?
this news, William was ecstatic. He began marketing the Circus Baby rental service even harder and proceeded to begin his final plan. William had needed Freddy's closed for more reasons than just spite. The Funtime's Remnant collection was not working as frequently as he hoped, and if he wanted to understand the substance at all, he needed more of it quickly. So he made sure he had free
worked
reign to tear
perfectly
apart
well.
the animatronics to harvest their remnant and leave. After sneaking into the now abandoned Freddy's, he set up camp in the safe room since the animatronics were programmed not to go in there. But then he remembered Michael had completely deactivated them, and they would only move if the souls possessing them were motivated enough to. Luckily, Shadow Freddy suddenly appeared, and William bribed him to start a conga line leading into the safe room so
With
he could
$5?
dismantle all the animatronics. His plan worked flawlessly. In the animatronics' weakened state, William was able to tear them apart using nothing but his bare hands.
Really?
Unfortunately for
But he's
him,
not a
some of
bear.
the remnant spilled and formed into the visible spirits of the missing children. Terrified that they might be able to kick him in the shins, he ran
Kick
to
him in
his
the
trusted
shins!
spring Bonnie suit and put it back on for the first time since 1987. Feeling empowered despite this accomplishing nothing, William began to laugh at the ghosts. But
That's
in his
true,
self-indulgent celebration, he failed to realize that the duct tape holding back the spring locks had fallen off, and the leaky ceiling proceeded to snap them shut. The ghosts,
So
finding
him
his inconvenience
dabbing
hilarious,
killed him?
faded away for the
As
time
it
being
should,
so they could
apparently.
Gossip about him elsewhere. While
Wow.
normally being impaled like this would result in immediate death, The spring lock failures these suits
I never
cause
wanna
are
dab
painful enough
again.
to consistently cause so much agony that life is maintained in some way. While Harold the janitor got the
Wait,
short end
that's
of
so
the stick
true.
and became
I
a
never thought of
miserable
that.
shadow creature, William was now one with his beloved rabbit suit. Realizing he wasn't gonna
Spring
properly
boy.
die anytime soon, William Afton came up with a new name for his new form. He called himself Springtrap. And with that, we end this chapter of the timeline.
Oh, just a chip.
Wait, but what about the rest of it? I'm drawing it out. For suspense. And this is a lot to cover, but pretend it's only for suspense.
Okay.
What about
Suspense.
Ferdinand Ball?
Don't worry about him. I'm sure he won't do anything crazy before this is all done. Alright, goodbye for now.
Well, I don't know. Oh my goodness.
He's gonna the Ferdinand's gonna appear behind him. Yup!
Oh,
Yup! Yeah!
Daddy! Freddy Fazbear. So now we know your dad's real name.
Yeah!
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand.
That is an interesting plot twist.
All
Crying
because
child?
of $5.
Well, then the crying child is just actually a really mean kid. Wow. And yeah, because of $5. Which I'm not surprised. Money does do things.
You're not
What?
wrong.
Maybe if I take $5, then from somebody, it'll create this cool new timeline.
Do not take it from... You know what? Take it from Circus Baby. See how far you get with that.
Okay.
Anyway, hopefully you all did enjoy. I'm gonna see how this all turns out for a fun time. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.